Today, we are bringing together 7 moms who share a painful and tragic bond. They have all lost children in violent encounters, most of them at the hands of police, and they will tell you that it speaks volumes about systemic racism in our country. We are grateful to have them in this rare gathering right now to talk to us and to share their pain and to share their journey and to help us learn a little bit more about what is happening at this moment in America. I just wanted to reiterate how much I appreciate and we appreciate here at ABC you're taking the time to talk with us. I know that this is a very difficult time. You all share a common and painful bond. As one of you said, the sorority that nobody wants to be a part of. What do you say to each other? Wanda, when you see each other? Michelle, when you see each other, what do you say?
It's nothing you can really tell a person that's going through this type of pain to make them feel better. But what I do like to express to them that I share the same pain, um, the same pain that these ladies have. I have the sleepless nights, um, the sleepless, not eatless days. I mean, I've had those, and I know that these mothers share that same type pain. And I also would like to share, if I hadn't spoken to you personally, that I'm here. We must stand together. We must support each other.
You sent a message to Tamika, Brianna's mom, on her birthday.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you say?
I just wanted her to know that I knew that that day was going to be very difficult because Ahmad had a birthday on May the 8th, and it was days prior, just days prior of that video being released. And that was one of the most heartbreaking days that I've ever had. And I know that Miss Palmer, she experienced the same pain. And I wanted her to know that I know her pain and I was there to support her.
Miss Palmer, tell me about that, what that meant to you, because this is so fresh for you at this moment. How are you doing?
I'm trying to be okay. Um, it was nice though to get the message just to know that, somebody feels the way that I feel. I'm surrounded by all these people, but they don't really understand what I'm going through and how I feel. And, for her birthday to come up so quickly after this incident, yeah, it was heartbreaking and just so her words were kind and they were sweet, so they meant a lot.
A lot of people reached out that day, people that you don't even know. I did a report that day. People chanted Brianna's name as they were protesting, but yet you were dealing with this personal loss. What was that day like for you?
I didn't want to be up out of bed. I didn't want to deal with people. But like you said, it was all these people who I don't even know who came from everywhere to celebrate her life. So I had to get up and I had to talk and I had to be around these people and I'm grateful. I really am. But just that day in that moment, I didn't want to be that person. I didn't, she's not here. She wasn't here to enjoy it. And yeah.
Sabrina Fulton, what do you say to someone like Tamika Palmer, who is so newly in this horrible, painful club that you all are a part of?
I don't want any mother to listen to what people have to say about the way you should heal and the amount of time it should take for you to heal. Everybody heals in their own time, so don't feel any pressure from anybody that you should forgive, that you should heal, that you should be happy. Because one of the things that I remember is I felt like I was never going to be happy again. I went from 95% of the time being happy to 95% of the time being sad. And so one of the things that I would tell you to do is just I put pictures up of my son because I didn't want a person for me not to have pictures up, and then all of a sudden they put pictures in my face, and now it's making me sad because those are the triggers that gonna, make you sad. When I first started out, the hoodie would make me sad. Now when I see a hoodie, I smile about it because I've trained and reprogrammed myself to say that's in memory of my son. So you just have to do things that's in memory of your son. You have to, or your daughter, and you just have to think about the good times. I just posted this morning on somebody's page. She was thinking about her mom, and she said she was crying, and it's okay to cry. I still cry 8 years later, and I don't apologize for crying. Those are my tears. That was my son. And so when I cry, I always know that a brighter day is coming. And you have to know that. You have to allow yourself to be sad on that day. And then you have to allow yourself to know that a brighter day is coming. One of the things, too, you said a lot of people was around you and different things. I had tons of people around me. But when the lights go off and the cameras are gone and your family is gone, your friends are gone, and it's just you, you're going to have to learn how to deal with it. You're going to have to come back from your deep depression, your sadness, your disappointment, and just not having your child. And one of the things you have to do is you have to pull from the strength within. A lot of people look for other people to strengthen them, but you're going to have that around you. But when all of those people are gone, you're going to have to learn how to do it yourself. And it's within you. All you have to do is lean on God. It's within you. Trust me. I'm no superwoman. I'm no Wonder Woman. It was God. It was only God that brought me through what I went through. Nobody else could have done that.
Michelle, what about you? Your son was so young. What gets you up? How do you keep going?
Be his mom. And even in death, every day, I don't even have to remind myself anymore. I know that was my son. I know that is my son. And nobody's going to fight harder for my son than me. So I don't have any choice but to get up every morning. Because if I don't do it, who's going to do it? I've been doing it all of his life. That's all I know.
Your son wrote a beautiful poem that I had seen published with him, saying that he was sort of afraid, but he didn't want his mom to feel that pain, recognizing that there are young black men losing their lives, said, I don't want my mom to feel that pain. The idea that he wrote that, and he was lost to gun violence, to a police shooting anyway.
Antoine and I have always fought family meetings. There was only 3 of us. So we had some heartfelt conversations. And I had expressed to him multiple times that as a young black male, I would always be concerned for his safety. Unfortunately, I was concerned with Antoine losing his life in the streets. I never imagined him losing his life to somebody who was sworn to protect and serve. I didn't actually see that poem until the day after Antoine was killed.
Mm.
And for so many years, I had wondered, and I always repeated myself, as a parent, you say to your kid, do you hear me? Do you hear me? I hope you hear me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know until the day after Antoine died that he actually heard me.
You had never seen that poem before.
He wrote it for a school project. So it was never made public. His teacher saved it. And the day after he died, when everyone in the city of Pittsburgh was protesting, she brought it to my house. And we immediately released it to the public. But through that poem, I was able to understand that our kids hear us, even when we think that they don't. So it reminds me to keep talking to my daughter and keep talking to my grandkids. And that's why I'm in the schools. That's why I'm doing all the legwork that I'm doing, because I know now they hear us.
I'm not what you think. I understand people believe I'm just a statistic. I say to them I'm different. I dream of life getting easier. I try my best to make my dream come true. I hope that it does. I am confused and afraid. I mean, it was so raw with his fears as just any other teen kid about living up to expectations, but knowing that he was also vulnerable. as a young black man.
And sometimes I feel bad about that because I stressed it to him so much that as a parent, you don't want to put too much pressure on your kids, but you want them to know what the world really is. And I repeated to my kids for years that the world is cruel and nobody's going to love them the way I do. And through that poem, I was able to learn that he heard me. He knew. The sad part is that poem ended up being reality all the way from beginning to end. And I just wish it was different.
Definitely heard you. Samaria, your son was truly very young. How do you sort of deal with the pain every day? You know, Sabrina talked about being 95% sad some days. How do you deal with the pain every day?
I think I stay in rage a little bit more just because I'm not normal and I'm not really allowed to be normal because of what America has done to my family. Tamir is a high demand and I'm his voice, so that keeps me really busy and just wanting to, give back to the community with his foundation and things that I'm doing with the platform that I have that America has provided for me. Let's talk about that. They provided it for me because they murdered my son. So, on giving back to the community, building a center, the foundation, still being a mom, a grandmother, still always going to be fighting for police reform, dismantling the whole system, things of that nature. I stay very busy, very busy. I got a lot of projects. I kind of juggle like 20 projects at a time.
I did hear you talk about being in demand and having to speak your child's name. And Gwen Card, let me ask you that because so many people have spoken your son's name for a number of years. And, but so many other things have happened. So many other shootings have happened. Do you worry that it gets harder to keep his name out there and to try to find justice for him, which you still, I assume, don't feel like you've had?
It was several police officers involved in my son's death. And I vowed to go after those police officers with everything. And, I am so sorry about George Floyd, and I expressed that to his family. But his death echoed the sentiments of my son, and it brought back to life what was actually started in the identity with my child. And even now, that's why I'm still trying to go. I have gotten this 4 or 5 doors past the door, and one of them is on and anti-chokehold. And it's not perfect, but I can fight for it. I'm not only fighting for my child, I'm fighting for the grandchildren, for the mothers who may have to cry because there is no law, and I'm fighting for the unborn. And I just want everybody to know about it. We don't need another mother in this struggle.
Gwen Carr was talking about how she won't stop fighting. And it's not just about her son, but it's about others. And this is a fight that you're really just beginning because this just happened to you. It is still very fresh. You lost your son, not at the hands of police, but at the hands of, 2 people in the neighborhood. Some people might even label them vigilantes. You're just beginning this fight. What is that like for you, joining and hearing the voices of these moms and some of them who have not found justice, and knowing that this is a road you're about to travel?
Hearing from other mothers, it gives me strength to let me know that what I'm doing now, which is fighting, is what I'm supposed to do as a mother. I just started, but I've been fighting for Ahmaud and my children ever since I had them. So fighting is normal. Fighting this type of fight is different, but I've always fought for them, and I always will.
Does it give you hope, or does it give you sort of discouragement, though, when you hear that Gwen Carr says all these years later she's still fighting for justice? others among you who say they still feel like they have not had justice?
I really think that what has happened over the last, say, 4 months, this is different. They're protesting. People are hearing our voices more. And I do think that change will come. The time has come for change. And I think that what's happened has implemented change.
Allison, I'd like to ask you about that. Now, you're the only mom here, really, who has seen a conviction in your case. The police officer who shot your son was indeed convicted and given 10 years. Do you feel a sense of justice in this case, given that you did actually see the police officer who shot your son go to prison?
When I returned from the grand jury and they actually indicted Amber Geiger for murder, I asked, or I indicated that I looked forward to a murder conviction. So until the trial, I prayed and I fasted, and that's all I asked God for, to give her a murder conviction. Because my son's life was taken away, and we live in an age now where it's not an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. So I could not ask that her life be taken away as well. But I thought that whatever she was convicted of would cause her to have a completely different life. So being a murder convict, I know she will not be able to vote. She'll have to declare her conviction when she has to get another job. And now I'm quite heartened with the executive order, which states that police officers who have done wrong would now be included in a registry of offenders so that they cannot get back into any other police department. So I am not too happy about the 10 years. However, I believe God is in control, and I'm hoping that during the time that she sits in a prison cell, she will reflect on what she has done, the pain she has inflicted on my son and on my family, and come out of that prison a better person, a person who would never ever think of pulling a trigger on another man.
And do you think that that will happen? I mean, you had a chance to see her in court.
I think it's going to happen. And I am still fighting. I am still calling on authorities to do what is right. And I believe the protests that we're seeing right now, although there were protests after every single incident, and I'd reached a point where I was asking, when will it ever end? I kept saying it over and over. I thought after both of them, it would have been the end, because I kept saying that I did not want to see another family suffer the fate that we did. And I'm so sorry to Tamika Palmer and to Wanda Cooper and to the other mothers who have lost sons following Bofum's death. I'm so sorry to Tatiana Jefferson's family, that she could have been in the comfort of her home playing videos with her nephew and be shot in her bedroom. I'm so sorry for Jamel Robertson's family and for EJ Bradford's family. And now we have Rashad Brooks. I am so sorry for all of these families, because we all suffer the pain. Birthdays are no longer the same. Anniversaries are no longer the same. Every time I reached a point, at some point following Bofum's death, I didn't even want to see other people happy. I was so sad that if somebody, a random person at a mall or in the supermarket would laugh, I would feel like holding them and beating them up. I didn't want to see people laughing, because I lost a son who did not deserve to die in the way that he did. He was in the comfort of his living room. He chose to stay indoors that night to watch the first game. He was happy. He called his sister saying, oh, he couldn't wait for 10 o'clock so that he could watch the game. He had settled in for the night, and his life was taken by someone who swore to protect and to serve. Someone who ought to have had the right training to observe their surroundings and to de-escalate a situation. But instead, she hastily pulled the trigger and blew up my son's heart. If America does not shake up after all these incidents, the tears that we all share as mothers will be the tears that will break America.
Tamika, you hear that, and I'm sure it takes everything you've got. I want to hear what you're thinking as you're hearing Allison.
It's just hard, she talked about not wanting to see other people happy, to have these people around you, laughing and enjoying life. And they don't deserve to not be happy, but in that moment, you got so much anger inside of you, so much disbelief for what happened to your child. To know that she talked about, having the best day that day, going out to dinner with her boyfriend and going home to watch movies. To know she was in her house, in her own bed, and someone kicked in her door and killed her. To know that she didn't deserve it.
I can't even begin to imagine. But Michelle, you can. Michelle, tell me what you're thinking.
I think we all hope and pray that when it's our child, you don't have to see it anymore. And every time you see another one, it takes you right back to the day that it happened to you. Miss Rice has come to my home, and happened to come on a day when my own sister lost her daughter. Miss Jane has called me on the phone, and I have called her on the phone. Miss Fulton showed up for a guest appearance in my city. It brings about a bond that I can't begin to explain. And I think the reason that happens is because no one understands what this pain truly entails and all of the dynamics that come with it unless you have walked in our shoes. And every day I pray that those shoes don't have to be put on by another person. So it's heartbreaking. It's not just heartbreaking for myself. My heart breaks when I listen to their pain because I know what that pain is. And I think all of us use the word overwhelming because there's no other way to define it. I don't think people realize that we're not just battling our own issues and the fact that we lost our kids. We're battling a whole law enforcement agency. It's a lot. A lot.
Sabrina, when you hear Allison rattle off all the names of these people who are now bonded with you, give me a sense of what it is like when you saw what happened to George Floyd, when you saw what happened in Atlanta, when you see another victim, Sabrina, what happens for you? Because you've been there.
All those things are triggers, and it triggers your emotions. It triggers the sadness. It triggers the tears. It triggers the, just everything your heart hurts, your chest hurts, I get headaches. I mean, all of those things, you relive it all over again, and I can't equate it to anything but PTSD. I just we're never going to recover from this. We're never ever going to recover from this. I have not met a mom yet who's lost a child who has recovered. We never recover from it. We live it every day. I mean, you don't have to tell us about our kids. We carry in the pain every single day. We just have good days and bad days, but we carry the pain every day. And so that's what it does. It just re-triggers something that's already an emotion that's already there, a feeling that's already there. And of course, it makes you angry. It makes you very angry. It makes you disappointed. It makes you sad. It makes you just say, why? Why does it have to happen like this?
Again.
Again and again and again, and continues to happen. And every cases, every, I'm not going to say story, every tragedy, we are hopeful and saying, I don't want this to happen to somebody else's child, because we know the pain. And we don't want to see somebody else going through what we are already experiencing.
You went to George Floyd's Minnesota funeral. Why did you feel the need to be there?
I struggle with it because of the coronavirus, and because I just didn't want to rehash the same feelings. I thought about myself, and I was like, I don't want to cry. I don't want to be sad. I just thought about those things, and I was like, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be, just depressed. And I thought about myself, and then I put my selfish ways aside, and I say, you know what? I need to stand with this family to let them know that I support them, to let them know I'm with them, to let them know that they're not alone. And that was my decision. That was my final decision. Like, I can't worry about my feelings. I can't think about me sitting in the church being sad when this family is going through like traumatic pain. Like, it just is so amplified that people don't even understand. And we can't explain it to them. We can't explain it to you unless you lost a child. Then you understand. But I just had to be there. I just had to be there to let them know that I support them and I stand with them. And so I made my way. I found the brothers. I found the family. I found everybody. When I went into church initially, I was okay. I was okay with being at George Floyd's funeral. But then once I saw the body, I was like, America did this to him. This is a result of the ugliness in America. And it hurt so bad. And it took me a while to get it together, because I kept asking God, why? Why did this have to happen? Why am I looking at a man in this casket who should have just been arrested instead of killed? And I continue to ask myself that. I could not get myself together for a minute. I didn't want to sit up front because I was emotional and I couldn't stop crying. And finally, when they started to sing, I started to like calm down some. And once I calmed down, I was okay. I thought about maybe he's the martyr. Maybe he was the vessel that God sent to earth to save us all, because we have to be saved. Something has to happen. We can no longer go like this. We can no longer continue our lives and be scared of people, vigilantes, police, and whoever trying to shoot and kill us. We can no longer do this. And that's why you see so many protests. We can no longer do this. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that's saying enough is enough. I'm not the only one that's saying stop killing us. I'm not the only one that's saying Black Lives Matter. We are just so sick and tired of just the way we have to feel as African Americans.
Well, you mentioned those protests, and Samaria, I want to ask you about that. Okay. Allison said that she felt that something was different. Other people say they feel there's something different. When you see these growing protests, and they are growing by the day, and black and white hands all a fist up in the air, does that say to you that something feels different right now, Samaria?
I'm very happy that they all out there. I'm actually happy, but I don't want the message to get lost. You know, we don't want the message to get lost with the vandalism and the burning and things like that. We don't want that message to get lost, and the message should be a clear agenda. I'm not for sure if they have a clear agenda. I know folks just want to do stuff, but they need to have a clear agenda of why they out there marching. You know what I'm saying? Don't just be out there marching. You have to have a clear agenda. And I think they need to be having the marches at the governor's house, the Capitol where the governor's office is at, because that's kind of where everything starts at right there. All of these local people, state people, they can't help us. The Congress, Supreme Court, and the governor right now, that's who everything should be addressed to. Especially having a bill created for them to demand that they sign it. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. I mean, I just don't understand where everybody at and what people thinking right now. People really need to be creating these bills that up there protesting, making it uncomfortable for them with peaceful protests. Let me just say that all that other stuff, I'm not condoning. That stuff is crazy. That message get lost. But protesting in the most righteous way, they shouldn't be able to sleep at night. Nobody should be comfortable in America sleeping at night. What's going on in this country right now?
Gwen Card, let me ask you about the protest. Are you heartened by the protest? Do they give you hope? And what do you want to see come out of this current movement that people say feels a little different?
People need to protest to bring about awareness. That's what protesting does. Yeah. But protesting is not the complete answer. We have to get legislation. And we have to go from demonstration to legislation. Because we could scream and holler in the street all we want, and nothing is going to change. The same thing happened when my son was little. But that's why I decided to try to get laws changed. These police officers who've taken a knee haven't lost his job because he took a knee. So now to me it's a mockery. So he was standing for all the Black lives that were lost. And they took his career away from him. So I think if they want to take a knee, you take it in your precinct and tell these police officers to stop murdering our children. Because they come into our neighborhoods, our communities, and they shoot our children. They utilize our children. And most of the time, they don't even have to pay for it. So yes, the protest is good to bring about awareness, but we have to go forward. And we, as the mothers on this call and other mothers, we understand it. A lot of people are just following protocol. They see other people demonstrate and they demonstrate. But I say some people are just in a moment. But we got to be about a movement.
A moment, that's a very good point. It's got to be a movement and not a moment. I've heard that said before. And I like what you said, that it's demonstration is good, but it's got to be legislation.
I watched the address by President Trump, and I was invited, but I declined because I just had some trepidation that it was more of a political stunt than it was any tangible move to address our issues. However, there are a couple pieces of President Trump's speech that caught me. And the first one was when he said that proper training might have prevented the tragic deaths of Antoine Rose and Botham Jean. I mean, I fell off the roof when I heard him say that, because that is exactly our point to the city of Dallas, that Amber Geiger was not properly trained, and it was a lack of training that led to the murder of my son. A reporter asked me yesterday whether I thought training was an issue because according to Amber Geiger's file, she was extensively trained. And I had to say to him that people could put in hours of training. That does not make them trained. So to have the commander-in-chief endorse that proper training was not given to Amber Geiger actually strengthens our position that my son could have been alive, and Antoine Rose and many of our sons and daughters could have been alive had the police been better trained. If de-escalation techniques do not come to their mind when they involved in some confrontation with a Black person, then it certainly tells you that the de-escalation training is not working. So it is calling on the authorities at the various police departments to look at the kind of training that is given and to ensure that proper testing techniques are applied to confirm that the training that is given is actually learned. The other thing that I found was good about President Trump's address was the issue of having a tracking system for bad cops. Because we're seeing in the case of so many cases, I think Antoine Rose's case as well, that police officers can kill innocent children and just get a transfer to another police department. They must be scarred for life. And so that tracking system would prevent them from getting employment in other police departments. So notwithstanding the intention that President Trump had for his executive order and big show of police reform, we have to pick out what benefits us. Right now, I believe we have to be a group of selfish people because we are the ones who have lost precious gems in our children. And therefore, whatever it takes to give us solace, to give us what we need from the loss of our children is what I am going for. So I looked through, my mom always told me, chew the meat and spit out the bones. So that's what I did with President Trump's speech. I looked through the meat. I took all the meat that benefited me, and I will throw out the bones, the innuendos, the other things that came with them. Right. The use of force and the escalation must be clearly reviewed so that another Black child in America would not be killed. I have 3 grandsons in America right now and a daughter, and I am still scared. I am still scared for all of them because I am not sure that all the protests and all the voices that we're hearing and all of corporate America coming in denounce police brutality and white supremacists, that it will stop. But I believe that it's a step into development. Just like Martin Luther King and all the others who came before us, we now have to continue, not necessarily for ourselves, but our children and our grandchildren.
And that's what so many people don't understand, that fear that you feel. Tamika, let me ask you, because everybody's talking about change. There has been some small change at this point in Kentucky, Breonna's law, that will now make it unlawful to do the no-knock raids. Does that give you any comfort at this point?
It gives me comfort for families, other families. It doesn't give me any comfort for what happened to Breonna. No one's been, these people are still being paid. These people are, walking around as if they did nothing wrong. And so for me, no, it's no comfort. But I'm definitely grateful that hopefully this doesn't happen to another family.
Samaria, let me ask you, we were just sort of talking about any of these changes and things like that have happened, and obviously nothing has changed really in Ohio for you. But when you think about the shooting was ruled objectively reasonable. To be said that it was reasonable in a report that he was shot and killed your 12-year-old son, how do you wrap your mind around that?
I just want to be able to serve the people at the end of the day and just make sure I'm representing my son in the most honorable way. Because he was 12 years old. I mean, you can't diminish a 12-year-old character. You cannot. I don't care what they say. You cannot diminish a 12-year-old character. And that's just where I'm at with that. So that's what some of my piece can kind of start.
Do you have much in the way of hope that change is happening at this moment?
I think that more people are listening. And for me, the executive order that was signed by the president, I'm actually just praying that it puts a little pressure on the representatives in the state level so that they are at least encouraged to take action because the president took an action no matter how small it was. I'm hoping that now his supporters and the other Republicans, whether it be in the Senate or in the Congress, realize that because he took at least the initiative of signing an executive order, that it is okay to speak up and stand in your truth and do what is right. So I'm hoping that he is just an example by putting his signature on that piece of paper for those on the state level, because at this point in my home state, we're pushing our own bill, which is House Bill 1664, and we can't get the Republicans on board. So I'm hoping that at this point, his followers and the people that support him now say, he signed something, we can do the same thing.
So maybe there is some pressure that comes from the top. Sabrina, let me ask, when you talk about things that are happening in your own communities, you're even now running for office. Tell us why and what you're hoping to accomplish.
The reason why I'm running for office is because I believe that I can make positive change. I'm passionate about my community, even though I travel the nation and I speak professionally. I want to see changes here in my own backyard, and so that's what encouraged me to run for office. I truly believe that seat belongs to the people, and through whatever process is gotten away from being the people's seat, and I want to bring that back.
It's Miami-Dade County Commissioner?
Yes, it's Miami-Dade County Commissioner, District 1. And I worked, Deborah, for them for 24 years before Trayvon was shot and killed. The only reason why I retired was because I could no longer work. I was pursuing justice for my son. And so I took a leave of absence or whatever, but I was currently working at that time. Trayvon was shot and killed. And also I went to elementary school, middle school, high school, and I graduated from college in this district, Florida Memorial University. And also my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, and I live in the district. And so it's really near and dear to me. And I just really think that people need to a change in Miami-Dade County. They want to see something different. They're tired of doing things the same way with the same politicians, and they want to see change. And I believe I can go into it and look at it with fresh new eyes. I'm not connected to anybody. I don't owe anybody anything. And my only passion is to make my community safer, to try to get better affordable housing for residents and workforce housing, to improve on the transportation system. The same things that I've been complaining about as a resident, I want to put my hand in the pot, and I want to see a difference in my own community. And I just feel like it starts with me.
Do you feel like this is something that you are almost called to do because of what happened to Trayvon?
Initially, I thought that, but it's so many obstacles to get to that seat. It kind of makes me wonder. I'll never give up. My election is August 8th, and I just ask everybody who live in Miami-Dade County to, if you want change, if you want to see a difference in your community, if you want a fresh new perspective on things, and I feel like I'm the voice of the people.
Gwen Carr, I'm sure you probably wouldn't necessarily want to spend your life right now out there advocating, doing the things that you're doing. You'd probably, I'm sure many of you would like to be doing some different things. How tough is it having to try to push forward and be out there and be a voice and try to keep your son's name out when maybe if this hadn't happened, you could be doing something else in your life?
That is exactly true. Because had this not happened to my child, I would have been the low key individual that I had been for most of my adult life. But after my son was murdered, I had to take a stand. I had to be I'm the only one who could lift up his name. I'm the only one who could stand and tell his truth and my truth. Because we know that the report, the police officers, they always sabotage your child. They murdered him twice. They murdered him on the streets, and then they murdered him in the paper. So I have to tell the world who my child really was and who he was to me. He may not have been anything to those who took his life, but he was everything to me. And I will not stop telling the world that.
You know, for me to hear what you have to say, to read your stories, and, you know, for so many people, but I have a black 17-year-old son. And my heart hurts. And I can only imagine what yours feels right now. Talk to America, if you would, and any one of you can talk about this, about what it is to be a black mother in America. I think a lot of people don't really understand. They're beginning to hear. People have been posting things on social media saying, I don't understand, but I stand. Which one of you wants to talk about what that feels like at this moment, being a black mother in America?
At times it can feel hopeless and you feel helpless because you never know when you're going to be watching a news story in your home, in the safety of your home, and the next day you're it. You never know when the next tragedy is going to happen, and if it's going to be somebody that you know or somebody that lives in your neighborhood, and somebody has to call on you. You never know those things. You're never going to know the pain that we face because you are not experiencing that particular pain. And so what I would encourage people to do is take a look at what happened with these tragedies and think to yourself, what if that was my son? What if that was my daughter? What if that was my sister? What if that was my mom? Just put your family member, your loved one in their place. And that should open up your heart in order to get involved. And when I say get involved, I'm not just talking about social media likes. I'm not just talking about reposting something. I'm talking about really getting involved. I'm talking about you can't continue to be silent because it could happen to you at any given time. If you are African American, I shouldn't have to tell you to get involved. You should, by the mere fact that you have children or you have compassion for somebody else that has children, it should compel you to get involved. You should not turn your face away from what's going on right now. Your heart should not allow you to do so. You have to get involved, whether that looks like voting, whether that looks like registering to vote, whether that looks like attending jury duty, whether that looks like signing petitions, or whether that looks like protesting, whether it looks like sending letters to the president, the governor, your local officials, whatever it looks like to you, but you have to do something. You can no longer just be silent and talk about it. You have to get involved because it could be your child next.
I'm looking at those pictures of Trayvon behind you. Is there a day that goes by that you don't think about him?
Not one single day. I have another son, Javaris Fulton, and I have to keep moving because I have to fight for Javaris. I can't do anything about Trayvon. The situation happened with Trayvon. The tragedy already occurred with Trayvon. I can't save him. but I can certainly work towards saving my older son, Javaris, and every Trayvon Martin and everybody's son and daughter that's on this, that's listening under my voice. I can certainly do my part. And that's the problem. People are not doing their part. You see, a lot of people are standing out because they're speaking out against it. They're doing something about it. And then you have the majority of people just sit back and watch and listen until it's them. I was a product of that. I was never a person that spoke out. I was never a person that protests. I was never a person. I mean, of course, I had my thoughts and I had my things that I believed in. But as far as me being involved, that's why I try to encourage people to get involved. Don't wait until something happens to your child. Get involved now so something doesn't happen to your child.
None of us asked to be thrust into this role. It has become a job for most of us, and I know for myself. I no longer have a son out there. And I'm still willing to get out there, lead the way, push the movement, and open up some doors for some other people. I personally feel like this. If I can do it and I don't have a son out there, every Black person should do it. I stand by the philosophy that I am Black and I am proud. And anybody who is Black should be out there on the front lines right with us. I'm no longer trying to save the life of my son. That is gone. But if I can save the life of another mother's child, I'm going to do it every day of the week. And I mean, I ain't stopping till I'm dead. And I pray somebody in my family picks up the fight then.
Allison, John, let me ask you, when she talks about the fight going forward and you all are vowing to fight, where do you think you might be next year this time? Do you think there will be great progress?
Deborah, I like what I'm seeing. I'm not one who would just accept talk without action. So what I'm seeing right now, following George Floyd's death, I'm seeing corporate America coming in and apologizing. I am hearing the NFL talking about getting Colin Kaepernick back. I am seeing greater recognition by Rock Nation and some real high-profile organizations. I'm seeing executive orders signed. I saw Lee Merritt testify before Congress yesterday. That, for me, is heartwarming. I am seeing some progress, and I'm hoping that where we're at today is etching closer to the complete eradication of police brutality and white supremacy. I am a realist. I don't believe that Rome was built in a day, but I believe that every step that we make is a step that seeks to help another Black family from suffering what we went through. So like Sabrina, I will continue to stand up and speak out and take whatever action that I need to prevent this from happening to another family, to another person. I don't live in the United States. I'm not a US citizen. I live in St. Lucia. My children chose to go to America to seek education. And while they were there, they were able to get employment legally in America. My son, both of them, loved Dallas. But what Dallas did to him was completely opposite to what he did for Dallas. And therefore, I believe following the executive order and following all of the actions that have been taken, by major sporting organizations and corporate America that the city of Dallas and the respective cities that have inflicted harm on our children should stand up and do the honorable thing by looking at us as victims and doing what is right for us. I think it is, like my son did to Amber Geiger, it is a time when major organizations need to come down on their knees and ask for forgiveness for the wrong that they have done to our children. I believe the Senate in America, Capitol, the president, cities, police departments need to take that knee on behalf of George Floyd and on behalf of all of our children who have suffered at the hands of these police or these white supremacists, and beg for forgiveness for inflicting such harm on our children.
To hear you all with your strength and your purpose and your resolve and your pain, Tamika Palmer, what is it like for you to be surrounded by this strong group of women who essentially are putting their arms around you and everybody else who is suffering or not?
So I'm new into this position. I don't think I ever really understood my position in this fight prior to what happened to my daughter. Of course, I always had opinions, and I've always was worried about what was happening to my Black community, but I didn't know my position in the fight. And another part of it being that I have Black daughters, and sometimes I think that we don't think that it can happen to them because so many times they're swept under the rug. People don't hear these stories about these Black women, but I'm now learning that I have a higher position in this fight, and whatever I have to do to remain in it is what I'm going to do, because it should never happen to another Black daughter, son, another Black person, period. And like I said, I'm new here, but I'm ready, and I'm here, and I'm not leaving because I still have another daughter, and this just cannot happen again.
Well, I think so many of us should feel a sense of strength and certainly humility after hearing what all of you have to say. I have to say, as a mother of a 17-year-old Black son and a 21-year-old Black daughter, I don't think I've ever felt more vulnerable and more frightened and more exhausted. And all of you ladies, with your pain and your purpose, give me hope. So I want to thank you so much, all of you, for your time and for your honesty and just for your willingness to share. And I want to thank you all so much for being here.